Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com or alexmerced.com. This particular episode I'm going to post on all my podcasts because I think the technologies I am talking about are interesting. And actually, you know what? I'm going to just make this an episode about decentralized tech in general. So I'm going to talk about one particular thing that I want to really talk about first, and then I'm just going to go over like the whole pantheon of decentralized technology. And that way we can cover like the whole world in a video, or actually one audio piece. So again, whatever podcast you're listening to, thank you for listening. Subscribe if you're not subscribing. I'll also post this on YouTube, so subscribe if you haven't subscribed. But bottom line is, I'm someone who really is into the idea of decentralization. Okay, so those who know me in any venture know I talk about this a lot, in the sense that decentralization empowers people. Because why, especially with decentralized technology? Because the problem with when you have something that's centralized, which sometimes that can definitely mean efficiencies of scale, and it does have its pros, there's also its vulnerabilities. Because again, the whole idea, like, cut off the head of a snake. If you cut off a central server of a particular app, like there's a huge vulnerability where there's a heart. Okay, so for example, if you have a application where there are certain servers and there's someone who controls those servers, all you have to do is compromise that person. They can shut off those servers, whatnot. So this could result in like oppressive regimes, silencing dissidents. This could result in people's data being misused because one person has access to everyone's data. So there's a lot of cool technologies that really kind of break apart these problems. And the newest one that I've learned about, which I'm going to be writing about more in detail for an upcoming LogRocket article. So if you haven't actually read my blog post on LogRocket, I cover a lot of really cool new technologies over there. So you can just head over to my main blog, toots.alexmercedcoder.com, and there is a link to my LogRocket blog there on my technology blog. But IPFS, the Interplanetary File System. Now, what is this? Essentially what it is, it's the idea is it's a new internet protocol. So in the same way there's a protocol called HTTP. So you notice that every URL you put on the internet starts with like HTTP. It's a protocol for it's like another way for us to kind of identify resources we want to access over the network, over private networks, over the internet, the big giant connected network around the world. It's just another way to identify, because that's what these protocols do. Like HTTP is one protocol that allows us to send text messages that are formatted in a particular way, that then get routed to some other computer that's identified by their location. So it's location based. So what happens is that when I type google.com in the browser and I put HTTP or HTTPS in front of it, it's sending this little text message, and then it goes to these central servers called DNS that know where every other server for every domain is. So think of it as like a giant phone book. But basically that among other servers becomes sort of like, and then you have to host your data on a particular location that DNS points to. And we've seen like websites get taken down because like their server, the company that provides them with their server decided to like withdraw the service or things like that, or someone compromises that server and that content is gone. So this happens because everything is kind of centralized, because your content has to be in a particular location that DNS points to. So it's very location based. What IPFS does is that it's content based. What you're doing is you're looking for a particular piece of content regardless of location. So in that case, every piece of content that is in the interplanetary file system, which is kind of a weird name, has like a hash. A hash is just like, again, a jumble of letters. It's a little bit more than that, but to keep it simple, it's just like this string of letters and numbers and things that kind of disguise or help identify a thing. So what happens is that every hash is going to point to sort of a unique piece of content. So if I were to upload, and you don't really upload, basically what happens, it's like if you ever use torrents to do like file sharing, that's pretty much how this works. It's basically what happens is that everyone downloads pieces of a file from anybody else who has the file. But over time, at the beginning, you're the only person who has the file. So like when I say, hey, I want to put this on IPFS, a hash gets created that identifies that this file exists. So it could be like an HTML file if I'm serving like a website. or an MP3, if it's I want to share an MP3, literally like any kind of file. Okay. And so if I want to share that HTML page, I say, okay, this file, I have this file. It points to my computer where that file is located, but it doesn't actually point to my computer. What happens is that I'm just like the first host of the file. So then if somebody else says, hey, I want to access that particular file, they put in that hash, then what's going to happen is that they'll download that file from me, and now there's two computers, again, assuming that you turn on hosting. So if you choose to be a file host, a node in this IPFS network, then anytime you access a resource, you now become another place that people can download it from. So let's say 10 people have downloaded my file. So let's say I made like a HTML file for a web page, and then someone accesses that file. Now they're not downloading it from just me, but from the 10 other people who also have shown that they have that file and are hosting it. So over time, that file becomes more proliferated and more distributed. And again, there's no one place. You can't just delete that file off one person's computer and it's gone. And it's immutable. Like basically, if I change that website, like if I were to update the page, I'd have to re-upload it, get a new hash, and that's a separate file being proliferated. So again, it's not like again the traditional website, a traditional internet where I can update the files and they just reflect those updates. The idea here is you're sharing sort of a file. Each hash points to a file at a particular sort of state. So this could be cool for sharing like different versions of manuals. I mean, you could technically do websites this way. The only issue is that you'd have to have some sort of mechanism to point it to sort of the latest version of the website. Which there's different ways of doing it. You could create like a public internet-facing screen that points people to the newest version, and that's kind of what my article will be about. So again, keep an eye out for that in LogRocket. So I just found that idea really cool because again, the idea is that you're no longer at the whim of you're still interacting over the public network because we're still pointing to computers at particular IP addresses. It still requires computers to be connected, but it really smashes the idea. And this is a protocol that's already supported by the Brave browser. So you can use IPFS. I wonder if the Tor browser supports it, because I know Tor has like its own protocol, which is what's like used for the dark web, which I've never used, but that's another thing that's out there. Cool. But that's not the only cool decentralized technology that's out there. There's also Mastodon. Mastodon's basically decentralized Twitter. So instead of having just sort of one company, Twitter, that provides you this service, but everything is on their servers, they have your information. They can use that information for like data mining. If they don't like what you're posting, they can just shut down your account. Or if someone just complains and doesn't like you, they can shut down your account, because a lot of people who post fairly innocuous content get their account shut down because somebody reported them because they don't like them. It happens all the time. Okay, and then of course, moderation oftentimes has to be done by humans, and different humans have different biases. So different moderators might be more harsh on some people than others. So there's a bunch of sort of, risk you take. Doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't use platforms like Twitter and Facebook, but again, there are aspects of them that you're kind of subject to the whims of others. The cool thing about Mastodon is you can kind of host your own server that you moderate. Okay, you decide what's on that server and who can be a member on that server. But just because you run their own server doesn't mean people can't see the content of people on other Mastodon servers. Okay, it's what's called a federated network. So basically what happens is as you follow people, as people on your Mastodon server follow people on other Mastodon servers, they all sort of start communicating with each other. And then if you're the owner of the server and you say, okay, this server has people I just don't like and I don't want, if you're on my server, you're not going to see content from these people. You can say, no, I don't want to federate with this particular server. So you have the ability to have free speech, and the ability to control your data, but you also have the ability to moderate. You also have the ability to control sort of who you associate with, without necessarily saying this platform belongs to only X people or Y people. Okay, everyone can sort of find their space in this federated network. And that's a really cool idea, and you can apply that to lots of places. So Mastodon's a really cool decentralized technology. Then there's Gun.io. Gun.io is a new sort of database, type of database, which is decentralized. So instead of actually, let's say you were to create a social network, you don't have to save the network in one big giant database. Instead, you take advantage that every browser has this thing called local storage, and then also people can connect to each other directly using a protocol called WebRTC. This is actually what Zoom uses. So this is why we can, have so many Zoom calls, because we're not technically using someone else's server. We're connecting directly with each other through WebRTC. So this uses that process of having like users connect directly to each other to share data, but the data's hosted on that user's computer. So what happens is that like you could create a social network or a chat app where your user data is on your computer and it's available when you're on the network. So you have control of your data. You still have this massive social network, thousands of people. It can't really be shut down because there's no central server where all this data is located. Basically the application kind of runs itself. Basically all you would need to do is just have like a app that kind of introduces people. That's exactly what Zoom does. Like when you connect to others through Zoom is really just kind of acting as a facilitator between introducing computers to each other. And then this app facilitates these communications between the computers themselves. Okay, and that's why like video chat has become so ubiquitous these days, because WebRTC has made it where computers can communicate directly with each other. You just need someone to do that introduction and make what's called a handshake, which is really, really cool. So Gun.io allows you to do that. Again, it's not blockchain. You're not saving the data on the blockchain. You're saving it on the user's computer. So it's not like encrypted or anything, unless you encrypt it. But the beauty of this, it can be a little bit less sort of intensive than like with blockchain where you have to do like proof of work. It can be a little bit quicker for things like a social network. This is a really awesome option. Okay, and this again can create really decentralized networks. Because even right now with Mastodon, even though you can be on a decentralized federated network, your data is still on the server that you're on. So if you're signing up with somebody else's server, your data is still on their server and you're subject to their moderation, even though you can choose who you're being moderated by. Now, with Gun.io, let's say they changed Mastodon and made it where the data is saved through Gun.io, even though there's these federated sort of like WebRTC servers. You can essentially create the same thing that is sort of federated. You still have different sign-up points and different servers that introduce the computers, but your data is on your computer, and that would be like the ultimate sort of decentralized application. I'm sure that'll happen in the coming years. Gun.io is like really new, and I don't think much has been built with it yet because people are still discovering sort of what it can do and what are the best practices. But it's an extremely exciting technology that I am personally very, very excited about. Of course, and there's blockchain, and blockchain has come a long way for as development. Yes, there's Solidity development. That's sort of the big thing. That's like learning how to like do Ethereum smart contracts, which writing Ethereum isn't like super complicated. Like it looks like, I think if I remember right, what does it look like? I think it looks like JavaScript if I remember right, but it looks like writing classes in JavaScript or TypeScript. Okay, I mean, as far as like just sort of the appearance of the syntax. And basically, I saw like there's a great YouTube channel called Fireship.io. If you haven't subscribed to Fireship.io, highly recommend it. Subscribe to my channel while you're at it. Okay, I can definitely always appreciate the subscribers. Whether it's any of my YouTube channels, whether it's like coding related content or opinion related content. They did a great job on like just like 100 seconds of like Solidity development, and it really kind of gives you like a good bird's eye view if you were interested in getting into Solidity development. But it's not the only out there. Like a lot of blockchains nowadays will use other languages. They have software development kits in JavaScript, in Rust, in whatever language you would prefer to do development in. And a couple of the ones that I'm really interested in like learning more about are things like Algorand. Algorand's really interesting, especially now that I think I forget which country, was it Ecuador? That says they're going to start using Algorand to develop like a currency that they'll be using nationally, which is really interesting. I was into Algorand before that, but not to sound like a hipster, like I was into it before it was cool. But that definitely makes it even much more interesting. That's fascinating. There's a lot of different networks. Polkadot has a lot of stuff, cool stuff going on. I'm always interested in waves, not partly because I hold a lot of waves, so that'd be really nice if that went really well. Shiba is interesting. I know Shiba kind of came out as a joke. It's essentially like what Dogecoin is to Bitcoin is what Shiba is to Ethereum. So essentially, like at least that's my understanding of it. So like Shiba is sort of the meme version of Ethereum. So it's essentially like a blockchain that can support smart contracts, but again, it's named after a dog for marketing purposes. But that doesn't necessarily mean people can't start making smart contracts in Shiba and turning it into a thing, and that would be also pretty cool. Okay. But again, you can create decentralized applications in the sense that, again, the data on a blockchain is not saved on any particular computer. It's saved on all the nodes within that network. So again, there's just nowhere particularly to shut off the thing. And like that's the benefit of decentralization. There's no head to cut. Now again, I've been talking about all the good things. Of course, there are possible cons. Okay, cons, of course, like, what if a harmful enterprise creates a decentralized application? Okay, and I'll let you define what harmful is on your own. But let's say there's a harmful enterprise that harms others or is harmful, but now there's no way to get rid of them. This is a possibility. Or there's content that's harmful that now cannot be destroyed because it's within the blockchain network, and the blockchain network is immutable, or IPFS is immutable. Immutable. That's generally how these things work. The idea is that you don't necessarily delete old information. You just have new versions of things in new information. So on IPF, you create a new version of the file, and there's a hash. In blockchain, everything is like, it's a ledger, so nothing, you're just tracking a bunch of transactions that contain sort of the state of things and update the state, but it's not that the old state has gone. So there's no way to like erase that the thing existed without, literally like having to get everybody who runs that particular blockchain to be on the same page. And this is for like really like distributed public blockchains that have like distributed nodes. That would be impossible. Theoretically, there probably will be some pseudo, somewhere in the middle, like decentralized but centralized blockchains, ones where it's not just one node. It'll be more like a network of trusted partners. Like I think banks are kind of doing this kind of thing where 10 banks agree to all be nodes of this one particular blockchain, and that way they can all agree to like alter the content if needed. But again, like they all have to agree, so no one can do it. So again, it provides sort of a balance of those considerations. That's probably something like that is probably what'll end up being the mainstream result. There'll always be room for all these, like, again, truly decentralized technologies when they're at their most decentralized. One, because there's people like me who just like really appreciate the technology for what it is and like using it at its maximum. But also, there's just, there's that. And then of course there's going to be people who want to do things good or bad, that they want a lot, the benefits of the privacy and ownership of information. But again, there'll be people who don't care about those things, or at least not as much, and may prefer some of those sort of midway compromise solutions, which any of these technologies can find a way. So again, like IPFS, you can have like a clear net. Clear net's what you refer to as a normal internet, HTTP internet. You can have a clear net proxy where it's a website you can interact with IPFS through ClearNet, so that if you don't care that much about the privacy aspects, but you kind of want to use the protocol in a convenient way, or Mastodon. You sign up with somebody else's server because you're fine with the moderation that particular server has. You don't want to host your own server, and you're happy with that. But point is, like, there's a lot of cool decentralized technology out there, and I'm really excited about it. I hope all of you are all excited about it. I hope you all check it out, and you guys have a great day. My name is Alex Merced. From either alexmerced.com, alexmercedcoder.com. I have several podcasts, so just subscribe to whichever one you find interesting. Just look up my name on your favorite podcast catcher. Look me up on YouTube. Look me up on Instagram, Twitter, and follow me on the socials. I don't post as much opinion, like political opinions, as much as I used to, but I'm still very much someone who's going to talk about technology, and a lot of that's going to certainly cross sort of both my areas of interest, where it's like individual empowerment and technological adoption of kind of cutting edge technologies, especially decentralized technologies that really help empower individuals. So, if all that sounds good, then like follow my content. I think you'll like it. And then if you do want to follow or go back and see some of my old opinion content, go do so. Just keep in mind, like, you don't have to agree with everything I ever say. But you might find something that provides a perspective you might find interesting. If not, don't bother listening to it. It's okay. Okay, like, not everyone has to agree with me. Not everyone has to listen to me. That's the beauty of a free world. Okay. But that stuff exists for those who may be interested in it. But most of all, at the end of the day, what I care about most right now is just people using technology to its max to empower themselves, to be able to not just survive but thrive and build the cool things that are going to even enable us to thrive at even greater levels tomorrow. Okay, and that just requires as many people as possible to just be out there and saying, I'm going to embrace technology, I'm going to use technology, and maybe even build things that are cool by knowing what's possible to build and what tools are out there for them to build it. And that's sort of my mission right now, and that's what I care about, and that's sort of where I'm at. Okay, I'm always about individual empowerment, but right now I'm on the technological bent in that regard. So have a great day. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy. Also, I just started using the Wisdom app. A Wisdom app is more like, it's a lot like Clubhouse, but for like mentorship. So instead of just people talking about anything, it's more specific to like experts talking about things that they're expert of and sharing knowledge. So do follow me on the Wisdom app. Right now, I think the app is only available on iPhone. So again, like Clubhouse, it was originally on iPhone. Now I think it's on both. But if you have an iPhone, download the Wisdom app. Follow me on the Wisdom app, because I'll be doing sort of also live audio where you can interact with me and ask me questions and whatnot. So check that out. Have a great day and enjoy. My name is Alex Merced. See you later.